Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this last day of June 2025. We were talking about the orders by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, that is CS Murkomen. Of course, there has been a bit of engagement here that he has no place in law to give such kind of orders, but also saying that in any case, the National Command or the command of the police service does not include the Cabinet Secretary in matters operation. Well, Charles, you wanted to say something before we took the break?
Say something. I've been a police officer for over 30 years. Senator, I've not returned my certificate of appointment and my uniform. So if you become president, you can still appoint me whatever you want, if you think I'm qualified.
Amen.
What I'm saying is I'm lucky in this sitting that I've spoken for on behalf of police since when President Kibaki was president, and even President Uhuru, and now I sit in a communication center during President Ruto's tenure. Those two governments, I met a lot of beating, Senator, from my community, because you know, our people from Kibera and the rest of the town caused a lot of mayhem. And many of them died. And every time I said that police are justified to use firearms, I would get a lot of beatings. When we had the demonstrations on 25th, the police were in a very awkward position, because there was a lot of mobilization on social media, which you can't blame anybody for. And you remember the 4 ladies who lost their children, plus the gentleman who lost his brother, had notified police that there would be demonstration. They would be having a peaceful procession. But in the process, other people also took advantage. And you can see this thing did not just take place in Nairobi. It took place all over. And police officers were also mobilized. Senator, some of these police stations have very few officers. And many of them were out. In fact, like police posts, if you go today, you may find just even a single officer at a police post. Because the nature of police work is that you don't stop bonding people, going to court, recording statements. You'll find in a police station where you have even 20 in one day. Some are, apart from report office and cell sentry, some are in courts, some have gone to their previous stations, maybe they are witnesses in a case, some are bonding, some have gone maybe for a postmortem. So you will always find very few police officers. But when it comes to response, you can see what happened. Like in Machakos, Matu, over 1,000 people invaded the police station. 2 people were shot and they died. Near in Karatina, 2 people shot on invasion of police station. Odaya, somebody invaded Emmanuel supermarket. There was response that a person was shot. If you look at Makongeni police station, there was also an attack and somebody was shot. Juja, also the same. So what I'm saying is that it's important that we don't mix issues. I've just told Senator that that boy who was shot, who was carrying masks.
Boniface
Karaoke. It was a very simple exchange. The boy, if you listen to that clip closely, you'll hear that boy abusing the policeman, Koma Mamako. But you see, that is not something that should make you, you are an officer. You must have restraint. And shot him with a rubber bullet. And you can see what it has cost the image of the police so far. Basically, policemen are well trained on justifiable circumstances on use of firearms. And police officers are aware that every police officer will always find themselves in situations where they have to act on their own without opportunity to refer to their books or their superiors. You find yourself in an action, in a situation where you cannot go back to your book and start saying, oh, what are the justifiable circumstances of using my firearm? It is something that should be grown in you, and you should know when you should use it and when you should not use it.
So in such a case, what is the challenge?
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Equally, you are in a situation where you cannot ask your boss, can I shoot or not shoot? And that is why policemen take individual responsibilities. And that is why even the statement made by the minister, because as he has put it, the Constitution was very clear. The minister can only give instructions to IGP in writing and on matters of policy. That is what the Constitution provides. But it reaches a moment where a minister is seen to be incapacitated by actions of people, whatever has happened. So what I would want us to discuss in this forum and agree as a country, and we have Harvey here, that Harvey, let us tell our people the truth, that police may use their firearm in certain circumstances. Nobody can say, Senator, that when a person approaches a police station, every day we are all going to police stations. We have not seen incidences of shooting because it is the police station where all of us report. And I was just asking you, have you come with your bodyguard here? And I'm sure he's a policeman in case you have one, but you may not have one. Why would you have it? Why would you have him?
Okay.
And so what I'm saying is, first of all, as Kenyans, can we agree that there are certain things that we can do, as he has put it? Our Constitution 2010, our biggest gain was the Bill of Rights, that Article 4. But remember, and Harvey is here, I'll always refer to him, that the same article, every right, and I've said it here severally, comes with limitations, comes with morality, morals, and comes with responsibility. And as you enjoy your rights and fundamental freedoms, you don't prejudice the rights and freedoms of others. We only have one police service. We cannot have two. And we cannot afford to demonize. Okay. If police officers commit mistakes, let us see a situation where action is taken against them and taken against them firmly and appropriately. But equally, let us not lie to Mwananchi that policemen cannot use. Because if we don't create fear, my brother, if today 1,000 people, not even 1,000, even 100 people invade a police station, and they are aware that there's nothing policemen will do, then what are we doing here? You'll be overrun. Okay,
I hear you, Charles. And yes. I want us to listen to some of the victims of police action on Wednesday, explaining the circumstances in which they were shot at. Watch.
Alipopigiwa risasi pale, aliachwa hapo. Ni vijana wenzake walibeba wakiandamana wakikuja naye. Walipofika pale karibu na Nyotu, ndio maaskari wakaingilia wakawafukuza ndio wakaacha hapo ndio wakabeba wakiingiza ndani.
Postmortem inaweza kuwa siku ya Jumanne. Nikitoka hapo, njia ya kufikisha nyumbani iko shida. Bidi ya mochari ni shida. Takwenda kusimamia tu matangi leo ni shida. Mimi niko tu hivi.
Kuna tuduka fulani tunakuanga na hapo ndani kwa cyber. Kanaweza kuwa kamefunguliwa. Hata kama sitanunua sapa, nibaia mtoi pampa. Sawa. Hadi sikufikanga. Nikasikianga tu sauti. Toa! Hiyo sauti kuangalia, nimeshaandwa, niko na risasi. Nishapigwa. Sasa hapo ndo nilipatanga mzee mmoja, alinifunganga na belt yake, alitonga belt, akanifunga hapa, na demu mwingine akatoa sweta yake akanifunga hapa.
Wakaniambia mtoto wangu ameshutiwa. Nikawauliza kama alikuwa kwa maandamano, wakaniambia pana, ameshutiwa akiwa kwa plot. Daktari wakafanya scan, wakaona bullet iko kwa kichwa, ambaye saa 10 hivi akatuacha.
Moja iliingilia mahali hapa, ikatokea hapa, nikaenda, na nyingine kaingilia kwa mgongo upande wa right, na zote zilikuwa upande wa right. So ile ya chini ilikuwa kwa kifua.
Ninaomba ya kwamba haki kabisa ijulikane na ichukuliwe kuhusu my son Kenneth Ouma. Kwanza mwenye alipika alikuwa na alifiatua hiyo marisasi kufuatana na demos, najua kwamba live bullets zitakani kutumika.
Now they tell the stories of their loved ones. Some lived to tell the story, some died. Kenneth Ouma is reported to have been working out in a gym. Ian Muhindi was watching demonstrations from the 9th floor of a building. and this has happened to them. Wakili, help us here, because even as we have all these conversations, there are families that are hurting. Is there justice coming their way, given the circumstances we live in?
Well, justice insofar as police killings has always been elusive. Look at the case of Willie Kimani. It took almost 10 years for this prosecution to go through. There are many cases that are pending in court about police killings. Now, it's always difficult to successfully prosecute a policeman for murder unless there is public approval and goodwill from the Director of Public Prosecution and the courts. You can see, insofar as Albert Ojwang is concerned, much as the public uproar has given momentum to this process, the main suspect, Eliud Lagat, remains at large and may never be apprehended and prosecuted. Why? Because the Director of Public Prosecution and those who wield authority do not want him processed through the due process. But when this is said and done, I want to speak to a category of people. Let me start with police officers. Yesterday, when I was about to board a plane, this young man, he looked young, but somehow a little bit withered, much older than I. Then he told me, "Unanikumbuka?" I said, "Sikukumbuke." Then he identified his family name. Actually, on reflection, I realized this gentleman was in class 1 when I was in class 8. But if we were to be put here, look, the point is this. These policemen and policewomen are part and parcel of us. They are our family. So listen to me, policemen and women. This is advice. Don't listen to Charles. Don't listen to the good MP Russell. Listen to me. I'm telling you what the law is. The right to life cannot be limited. A high court has determined this with finality. And that is the reason why even the death sentence is not being imposed on anybody found guilty of murder. Because the courts have said, up to the highest court, that the right to life cannot be limited. If somebody has threatened a police officer, the person is supposed to be apprehended and taken to court. If somebody has destroyed property, he has to be arrested and taken to court. If somebody has threatened the life of another person, must be arrested and taken to court. That is fundamental. And you, as a police officer, the biggest disadvantage you have on the streets is the firearm. Charles will tell you here, he's a well-trained firearm holder. But I've never seen any incidents where he's been accused of misusing it. You know why? Because he knows the consequences. That time he had a confrontation with Boniface Mwangi. He maintained his cool. You as a police officer must always maintain your cool. Because the day you will be arrested and charged in court for killing somebody, you will be all by yourself. Let me speak to Kenyans. The life of everybody is important. The life of a policeman, the life of a civilian. And I can say without any fear of contradiction that a majority of the people who were in the streets last Wednesday were peaceful protesters. Tell me, what justification was there to use force on David Maraga and those victims of police brutality who he was with? He was with the mother of the deceased. He was with the father of some of them. Where is the justification? It is wrong. And then let us speak to people like Kipchumba Murkomen, my colleagues in the legal profession. This is an embarrassment. Kipchumba Murkomen is a well-educated gentleman. He's knowledgeable. I think the only problem he lacks is intelligence. But his lack of intelligence should not be a problem to disturb us. It is incumbent upon professional bodies. For instance, the Law Society of Kenya ought by now to have taken action against Kipchumba Murkomen. And if anything is to go by, justification for taking that action is the statistics that have been given by Charles here. He's given us statistics of people who were shot in police stations. About 4 police stations is mentioned. A confirmation that indeed there are officers who are complying with the unlawful and constitutional order by Kipchumba Murkomen. Left to their own, police are always guarded and regulated. But when political appointees seek to use them, to control them in the manner in which Kipchumba Murkomen is doing, they get excited. And in the spur of the moment, They misuse the power that they have that are supposed to be limited. In fact, the firearm of the policeman is supposed to protect life, not to destroy life. So to the extent that a pronouncement comes from a cabinet secretary, that you use that power to end life, there is a problem. If I was still at the helm of the leadership of the Law Society of Kenya, this guy will have faced a motion for removal from office and disbarment.
I thought you could petition if you will.
I'm a retired general. I don't carry a rifle anymore. Let youngsters. I can only carry a small firearm.
Okay.
Excuse me. I tend to agree with many sentiments that is putting forward in police having their firearms to protect the people. Mm-hmm. But there's one thing we are not discussing, Harvey. Our discipline as a society. That if we are confronted with situations where we have to agitate, let's do it peaceably. It's never peaceful.
Everybody, but what violence was there when Maraga was being shot at?
I want to explain.
Not with a tear gas, with a live bullet. Maraga was shot at with a live bullet.
Excuse me.
Charles.
I happened to have been at Nation Center at 10 when I left this place. And I met Chief Justice Emeritus Maraga and the 5 families. They had they were on a TV interview. They went down and they prayed. We could see it live. After prayer, they started moving on their procession. Just as they started moving, they had not even gone 100 meters. Some boys started burning, setting up fire on the road along Kenyatta Avenue. And according to me, let me be the devil's advocate.
The devil
let me say that there must have been some people coordinating somewhere so that that procession would not be peaceful.
Most likely policemen coordinating that.
If the policemen fired, if the policemen were burning fire, I would say that, because what would cause protesters to burn fires along Kenyatta Avenue? But anyway, at the end of the day, this is our country, and we have to make a choice. If we are to have peaceful, we have had peaceful demonstrations. When Willie Kimani died, the incident you are talking about, every day, I was either meeting students from university, I was either meeting, like that day I had to walk with the demonstrators, the lawyers, from the Vigilance House to Jogo House, where the Inspector General was, because I knew he was at State House, he was not in office. And in the process, you saw what Boniface did to me. But still, we had to maintain our cool. And even now, you've just spoken about justice taking long in courts.
So why is it that a couple of police officers are not able to maintain their cool, including the person who shot?
It depends with... You see that boy who shot the young man? Even that one is very young. I think if I look at his number, he has not even worked for 2 years.
24 years thereabouts.
Yes, he has not even worked for 2 years. And it is just because of numbers, you know. There are certain ages that you may not want to give a firearm. Though I'm sure he was not given a firearm, he was given a rubber bullet. But still he misused it.
Which is still...
Because you see, in kind of riot preparations, not everybody is given a firearm. You always find that you have, every platoon, you organize 32. Only 4 have firearms. And even those 4 with firearms, always they have a sergeant who is older, who moves with them, who is supposed to give them directions or help them when they want to make mistakes. But because our rioting is such that everybody moves helter-skelter, you find even the organization becomes a problem. So such a young boy, 24 years old, you abuse him, kama mamako. You know what may happen. So
that's not provocation.
So, no. I've not said it is provocation. I'm a trainer, Harvey, and I'm old enough, older than even you. So what I'm saying is that these things happen. And I say, When a mistake occurs...
Is it then a reflection moment? Because if that weapon was in the wrong hands, what do you do?
No, he was not given the live firearms. He was given rubber bullet. It's only that he hit that boy at a very close range. You know, you can't transfer your anger, your personal anger, into causing everyone a problem. But we must have a platform as a country, my brother, where we have to agree that even our own discipline as a country. Let's not just talk about police and misusing firearm. Let's also talk about the indiscipline.
No, we're getting there. Yeah. That's what I'm waiting for you to finish.
The societal indiscipline.
Let me hear from Senator Muto and Moshimwaraso here. Senator, listening to the voices of the families and the circumstances, it would appear, if indeed what they are saying are the factual occurrences, it would appear that the bullets don't select who to target. But at the other side of that bullet, there's a policeman.
Squarely some. And you know what is even most disturbing? And I would have wanted also Charles Owino to try and make us understand. Some last year in Rongai, there is a young boy, I think from Siaya or thereabouts, that was shot about 7 times. I may not be very exact on the number of times that young boy was shot. And he had just been sent to collect something by the mother, and everybody knows about that particular young boy. So you cannot call several bullets stray bullets. So they must have been targeted at that young man.
That's true.
And actually not a young man, a young boy. It was a boy, I think about 12 years old, I may not remember. And this is the concern that we have, that police shoot deliberately. It's not by accident. And they shoot very innocent people, not once, not twice, several times. And you listen. So I want to believe the accounts of these affected families. You reported about a particular guard, I think in a particular hospital, that was shot last week.
Yes.
In fact, the family was saying that when they went to Nairobi Funeral Home, City Mortuary here, that they found him lying there in his uniform because he's a guard. The police officer who did that could see that this was a guard, and I believe that guard was not armed, was actually not doing anything that was...
he worked at Stima Plaza.
Yeah, at Stima Plaza, yes, that's the place, yes. And you know, so it is targeted. So what we may need to ask ourselves, there's also another young man from my county again, from Kegumo constituency, Kenyona ward, who was shot somewhere in Kasarani when there were protests against a young girl again who had been raped or defiled and killed. And I mean, these were just protesters. Police again shot at them. This is a major concern. Even as Charles Owino wants to ask us that we must also assess ourselves as members of the public, we must ask ourselves these very hard questions. That these members of public, I mean, who are unarmed, who are not doing anything, you know, risky or that threaten the lives of these police officers, why are they being shot? And I've listened to Charles Owino, whom I'm listening to very keenly because he happens to be a trained police officer. And to Nelson Harvey, who is a very good lawyer, take us through the provisions of the law. And, you know, when Charles Owino, you say that sometimes in a police station you could find 1 or 2 officers, and that is why I think he was trying to explain why police stations were attacked and even some buildings torched. What got to my mind some was, if we do not then have enough police officers to take care of the court matters, to take care of, you know, deployments out there, like when there are these demonstrations, then why don't we employ more police officers instead of, you know, carrying sacks of cash by senior government officers out there? Why don't we use or spend this money in employing, you know, more police officers? Again, when he says that a boy shot a boy, because one boy told the other, insulted him.
You have to repeat
then I cannot repeat. Then you ask yourself again, what kind of training do we give our police officers? Because when a police officer then passes out as a trained now police officer, they should also be given some emotional, guidance, some psychological training to be told not to entertain, not to be emotional in the carrying of their duties. But you know what? The problem I have with that argument by Charles again is that it is not only this young police officer who got affected and could not control his emotions, no less than a Deputy Inspector General, Lagat, also acted emotionally, leading to the death of Albert Ojwang. Because, I can tell you, Sam.
What do you mean acted emotionally?
Emotionally, yes. That's what I was trying to explain to you. I can tell you that every day, those of us in this space, and Honorable Raso will tell you, young men and women attack us on social media.
I'm asking, how did Lagat act emotionally?
That's what I'm trying to explain.
Okay.
Sam, I'm telling you, we are attacked on social media. People will say weird things that have no element of truth about you. But then if you are in public office, you should have a skin thick enough not to even get concerned. And why I'm saying Lagat acted emotionally was, remember, Albert Ojwang was just accused of him and several others were only accused. While Lagat complained was that there was some attack on him and allegations against him on social media.
All right.
So he should be able, a police officer, as seen everybody in public space, should be able to, to have a thick skin, to be able to hold.
Okay. And that's what I want us to speak about. You're talking about the